Want to welcome everyone here, and we have such a beautiful topic. It's very basic. So many of our topics are very basic, but at the same time, we're completely dependent on their answer, their explanations by our gurus. So let's start with a mini Vandana. Bandeham Shri Guru Shri Juta Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raganatanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitamscha Om Jnana Tamarandasya Ginanjana Shalakaya Chakshurin Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. So I very much hope that everyone will speak up on something that inspires them about this wonderful topic given by Seva Rupa Didi. Krishna, our sole proprietor. Now, soul in this sense is spelled S-O-L-E, and that means only. So that's really something to think about, that he is our only proprietor, and our means the entire creation, everything. He's the only proprietor. Anywhere. At least we get to learn about that. And I often find my mind saying, I'm not the proprietor? How is it that I'm not the proprietor? It seems that I am. I want to drink water from this cup. I'll pick it up and drink. So how is it that I'm not the proprietor? The first verse of Sri Ishopanishad, which is an ancient scripture, it's one of the Upanishads, and it's about Krishna. This understanding brings us closer to him. Sri Isho, Supreme Personality of Godhead. And this is a very famous verse, very easy to memorize. So that is always recommended. Ishavasham midam sarvam yat kincha jagatyam jagat. Tena tyaktena bunjita ma grida kashasvidanam. This means everything animate or inanimate that is within the universe is controlled and owned by the Lord. One should therefore accept only those things necessary for himself, which are set aside as his quota, and one should not accept other things, knowing well to whom they belong. So this is not only blasting that idea that maybe the tiny jiva soul is the proprietor of at least something, and that can be discussed according to his will. We may have some control that if he allows, for as long as he allows. But in general, we want to start with who is the supreme controller and who owns everything. And he says here, everything animate or inanimate. So that means the souls. That means also those things which are not living. They're just the table, the rock. So all of this is controlled by him. Sometimes people in this world are interested in magic, and they think a magician can make something move. Well, that's a trick, and is deceiving us, but Krishna actually can do those things. He is the ultimate magician too. This was discussed in one very early discussion with Srila Prabhupada in 1966. So he had not been around very long, but he was in New York and had casual conversations that just went on. And some of these are nicely recorded and transcribed. In this particular one, he was discussing Bhagavad Gita, verse 5, chapter 5, verse 29. And I found the link to this whole transcription. So if somebody, I can post that later. And he explains to this group of people who don't know anything yet about Krishna consciousness. He says, everyone is claiming that I am the proprietor of this house. I am proprietor of this land. I am proprietor of this country, or I am proprietor of this planet. You can go on increasing. There are many instances who became proprietor of many other planets also. In the history I have got, of course, we understand he's speaking of the demigods who are proprietors of just that, but under Krishna's ownership. Not only this planet, but many other planets. But this is a mistake. Actually, the proprietor is the Supreme Lord. We are just guests in his house. We are not proprietor. We must develop this sense that Krishna is the proprietor, or the Supreme Lord is the proprietor. Now that is actually fact. We come here as guests. Suppose I am Indian, you are American. We have come on this earth as guests for a few years, say for 100 years or 50 years. Then we leave this place. So if I am the proprietor, why don't I take this place with me when I am going? No, I am not proprietor. So there is no question of tyaga, renunciation, and there is no question of bhoga, or enjoyment, because you are not the proprietor. So you neither can enjoy, neither can you renounce it. And this was very startling, but the way he explains it is thorough. First of all, it makes sense to anyone, but then he goes beyond the normal understanding that most people have and explains it so well. So we really gain from this. And our laws, everything is written according to who is established as a proprietor or something. If I have a deed that says I am the owner of this house, then I can make the authorities, the police, everyone, do whatever I want with that house. If there's someone there, I don't want them to be there, I just say, please take this person away. And then I'll always say, are you the owner? So this is the way we think, but many things will happen that are completely beyond what we would imagine. And there's a reason for that. Srila Prabhupada is explaining so that people don't have to be frustrated. If we understand who is behind all of the scenes, then we won't have to experience frustration. And more than understand, we can become his devotee. We also can't renounce something if we're not the owner. I can't say, well, now I understand that I don't want this anymore, so I'm giving it to you. But how can I give something away which was not mine to give? So even that kind of statement requires a deep understanding of what it means to be the proprietor. So what is everyone thinking about this? Who has a contribution they'd like to make about these? Very important topic. Or a question. Pandita, are you saying hi? You have a question.
Yes, I have a question. It's so lovely what you were saying about this trying to find this balance, or at least not wanting to renounce anything or enjoy anything, this tyag and bhog, this sort of constant these constant influences that we have to deal with. And we notice that, maybe even when there is a no longer such an interest in enjoying or exploiting certain things, but that dangerous tendency of rejection and wanting to give things up from a place of not necessarily devotion, but sort of aversion. And then really where how we can harmonize things is dedication, right? Yukta Vairagya, really actually utilizing everything. And
Yes,
as you were explaining, seeing everything as his. And so really it is all for seva, it is all for his enjoyment, and we're just
yes,
trying to align ourselves with that. But my question is about forgetfulness in that regard. Because we see we see the devotees, they're always like yourself, just like so conscious of these things. It's like not so perfectly aligned with this concept.
yes,
But what to do with in when we're forgetful of this and
yes,
misaligned, therefore.
yes. It's just the center of everything, isn't it? Our free will to forget Krishna. And we've been doing that, and every conditioned soul has been doing that for uncountable time. And so naturally, those seeds are really deep and well established within us. So we're going to always be doing that. And we definitely require the association of devotees who'll and the constant hearing and chanting, which purifies us too. And then sometimes we're really not capable of coming to the right decisions and remembering as we should. But Krishna will swoop in with his agents and save us just because that's what he does. That's him. He wants us to succeed. So he'll give us all of this extra help because we really need it. But the strong tendency is to not remember. And then we're dealing with other people, even if we remember slightly, but we're dealing with somebody else who is forgetting, and we have harmonious dealings with everything. It's quite a tall order that our gurus are giving us. And let's see, there's something in the chat. Oh, Gangalila is saying Dandavat. I'm so glad you're here, dear. And that also, your question reminds me of something that has to be figured out in this regard too. We're trying to be Krishna's devotees. We're trying to, it feels natural once we get a lot of his mercy and the mercy of his devotees and our gurus, but we still have so much progress to make, so such a long path, and we just want to keep going. And it's not a linear path, it's all encompassing. It covers every aspect, our thinking, our feeling, and our willing. And what I've noticed a lot of the time is, well, I have my duties and my responsibilities. Hopefully, those are all out of, like you're bringing up, yukta vairagya. If I'm his devotee, that's everything that I see, everything I can think of is all to be used in his service. So it's not that I sit idly doing nothing because it's not mine, but out of duty, and I can accept some responsibilities. Even if I'm advancing very far as a devotee, still out of service, I will be doing these things that he wants. So, how do I come to understand that he's still the proprietor? If I'm in charge of his car, I'm sorry, then I am going to be thinking about, does it need some maintenance and how to drive it properly? So that's because I own it. If I have duties, then I own something. So I found some really sweet quotes about how to understand this better too. There's something in Reveal Truth, chapter 12, which has a lot on this point of Krishna being the sole proprietor. Chapter 12 is called Surrender. And Srila Gurudev, Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Maharaj explains there, it is Krishna himself who gives and takes our life. No one else can do so. We do not need to be so fearful of our environment and association. How much can we actually protect ourselves? We have seen that Indira Gandhi was shot by her own bodyguard. Mahatma Gandhi was assassinated, although he was a very pious man and dear to nearly everyone. The only savior of anyone's life is Krishna. If Krishna wants us to be saved, we will be saved. And if Krishna wants us to die, then we will die. There's a saying in Bengali, Rake Krishna Mare Ke, Mare Krishna Rake Ke. When Krishna protects you, no one can kill you. But when Krishna wants to kill you, no one can protect you. So this helps me to immediately jump to the idea that my trying to be the protector of something in the name of but it's my duty or even my service to Krishna, it's really out of this fear of I have to do something that requires fighting with the environment. So when we hear this extreme surrender, if Krishna wants to kill me, he can kill me. And of course, that means my body. But if he wants to do that, then I don't have anything to say about that. So it's better to understand what my position is related to him. And that includes all of my activities. The devotees are some of the most enthusiastic and busy people in so many different areas that I've ever known. And so it's not that because they're not trying to enjoy and the fruits of their activities, they're not thinking that they're the proprietor of anything. It's not that that means that you just go and meditate and do nothing. That's a type of renunciation. So Gurudev explains the mood of the surrendered soul is, and this is from Sharanagati 11.3, Krishna, you may kill me or protect me as you wish. You are my master. And Gurudev continues, this kind of submission and dedication is very valuable. Our real safety is found only in surrender and devotion. What Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur has explained is very serious. That's from the Sharanagati. It is not easy to quickly catch this conception of full dedication to the Lord and full dependence upon his mercy. So we consider some percentage in our devotion. Someone may be 10% devoted, 20% devoted, 50% devoted, or 100% devoted. So always, these all tie together, whatever our problem is that we're trying to understand better, like how is it that Krishna is the only proprietor? It's always tied back to becoming his devotee. That's always the answer. So how are we going to do that? And Gurudev goes on here to explain the power of ego. The only obstacle to surrender and dedication is ego. If someone has no mundane ego, they can easily connect with the transcendental plane and leave behind their mundane attachments. Everything mundane, our body, our possessions, and so on, is part of Maya's illusory environment. It is temporary and does not belong to us. When our ego is bewildered by the illusory environment, then our proper knowledge and consciousness of Krishna's eternal service is covered by mundane attachment, and that egotistic attachment creates a great obstruction between us and the Lord. And next he quotes from the Brahma Vaivarta Purana, chapter 3, Ahankara nirtatanam keshavo nahi duraga, Ahankara yutanam himaji parvata rasaya. The scriptures explain that mundane ego is like a great mountain that blocks our contact with Krishna and his transcendental abode. But when our ego is disengaged from the mundane, then it is very easy for us to contact the transcendental abode and feel the Lord's guardianship. Now, if we might not notice at first, it took me a long time to notice, but When our gurus explain about ego, they're always differentiating between mundane ego. That's all we need to change. It's not that we have no ego. Ego means identity. So it's for us to transform our misinformed identity with who we are to the realistic identity. And like he says, it's the mundane ego is like a great mountain that blocks our contact with Krishna and his transcendental abode. But when our ego is disengaged from the mundane, then it's very easy for us to contact the transcendental abode and feel the Lord's guardianship. So first of all, we'll feel completely safe. We'll feel like we're under Krishna's guardianship. And we can contact the transcendental. So it's not necessary for us to give up this body before we can be situated. He says, Ta dure ta vantike. The Lord is very far from us if we are not surrendered and dedicated, but the Lord is very near to us if we are surrendered and dedicated. Krishna is always with us. He lives in our heart in the form of Paramatma. From within our heart, he observes everything we do and all the reactions we create for ourselves. Whenever we consciously surrender to him and act according to our nature as his eternal servants, he removes all of our karmic reactions, fills our hearts with happiness, joy, and beauty, and gives us entrance into the ecstatic world of Goloka Vrindavan Dham. So to make some progress on this path, it seems difficult. It seems like, how could we possibly succeed? But at the same time, we're constantly being told by the scriptures and by our gurus about what reality is. And this becomes all attractive to us, no matter what state we're in. There's a beautiful poem which is especially dear. It was the very first words that I ever heard of Srila Prabhupada. Copy of the Back to Godhead magazine that was in just miraculously came to my hand when I had some inquisitiveness, some slight tendency that there's something wrong with this world and how I fit into it. And it's the poem that he wrote on board the Jaladuta, the ship that brought him. And I had no idea what he was referring to, but there are a few lines in it. I'll read just a few lines here that specifically point out his attitude toward being the controller, rather being completely dependent on the actual controller, and seeing how he does that. And it's not a harsh, you have to accept this. Like, you're a slave, you're going to be beat down, you have no hope. You have maybe 20 years to go before you're going to be released from this horrible state of being a slave or prisoner in a dark place. It's not like that at all. It's what especially came through to me was how completely joyful he was about his position, our position. He also is speaking like, this is true for everyone. So the boat was about to land in Boston in the United States on September 18th, 1965. So here are just a few lines from that. My dear Lord Krishna, you are so kind upon this useless soul, but I do not know why you have brought me here. Now you can do whatever you like with me. But I guess you have some business here. Otherwise, why would you bring me to this terrible place? Most of the population here is covered by the material modes of ignorance and passion. Absorbed in material life, they think themselves very happy and satisfied, and therefore they have no taste for the transcendental message of Vasudeva. I do not know how they will be able to understand it. But I know your causeless mercy can make everything possible because you are the most expert mystic. How will they understand the mellows of devotional service? O Lord, I am simply praying for your mercy so that I will be able to convince them about your message. All living entities have become under the control of the illusory energy by your will. And therefore, if you like, by your will, they can also be released from the clutches of illusion. I wish that you may deliver them. See, there's that little bit of control that we have. We can pray to the Lord. I wish that you may deliver them. Therefore, if you so desire their deliverance, then only will they be able to understand your message. So much humility. He's not saying it's his message or his duty. He's saying, you have brought me here, and so I'm doing this for you, and I don't understand how it will succeed. But this kind of a prayer, I wish that you may deliver them from such a soul. You know that Krishna is going to say, okay. And he does. And we all know how that it has not even ended up, but how that's going. Then Srila Prabhupada also prays more. How will I make them understand this message of Krishna consciousness? I am very unfortunate, unqualified, and the most fallen. Therefore, I am seeking your benediction so that I can convince them, for I am powerless to do so on my own. Somehow or other, O Lord, you have brought me here to speak about you. Now, my Lord, it is up to you to make a success or a failure as you like. O spiritual master of all the worlds, he's speaking to Krishna, I can simply repeat your message. So if you like, you can make my power of speaking suitable for their understanding. So see, all the pressure is relieved from him. He's not thinking, okay, I know what I've been asked to do and I have to do it and I've got to figure it out. He's not using his intellect in the sense of mundane capacity. He didn't go get 3 doctorate degrees so that he would be qualified. He's simply saying to Krishna, I can simply repeat your message, and if you like, you can make my power of speaking suitable for their understanding. Only by your causeless mercy will my words become pure. I am sure that when this transcendental message penetrates their hearts, they will certainly feel gladdened and thus become liberated from all unhappy conditions of life. This is also an important thing to think about, because he's not saying, what if they don't understand? Knowing full well that Krishna is giving them free will also. What if they are even determined to reject Krishna's existence? What to speak of wanting to surrender to him? But what Srila Prabhupada knows, what he's saying here is, if the message penetrates their heart, they will feel gladdened. That's nice. And thus become liberated from all unhappy conditions of life. So how much he understands about what it is he's simply trying to do. So this certainty that he has no reason not to try. Then he says, O Lord, I am just like a puppet in your hands. So if you have brought me here to dance, then make me dance, make me dance. O Lord, make me dance as you like. I have no devotion, nor do I have any knowledge, but I have strong faith in the holy name of Krishna. I have been designated as Bhaktivedanta, which means knowledge through devotion. And now, if you like, you can fulfill the real purport of Bhaktivedanta. Signed, the most unfortunate, insignificant beggar, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. So, it does seem like it's quite impossible for us to do any service that we have to do. First, we have to remember we're not the proprietor. That's hard enough. But to have some success and to keep going, and of course, we want to be successful. Why would we want our efforts to be in vain? But we pay close attention to the thinking of such a saint. For one thing, he's also such a wonderful poet. His poetry is phenomenal. His capacity, he wrote this in English. I'm sorry, this one he wrote in Bengali. But his capacity to speak English was of great happiness to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who understood the importance of being able to speak in English. So that was his Srila Prabhupada Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj's decision, was to go to America, which was the most important city at that time in the world. And he took the counsel, as we know, from Srila Guru Maharaj, Bhakti Rakak Sridhar Maharaj, for how to do this, who felt his English was not so strong, but he was very happy to be that friend and guide, that essential guide. We are all so dependent on that fact. We don't know. Even people who've never heard of Srila Guru Maharaj are completely dependent on this guidance that he gave and always gave to Srila Prabhupada in their very, very close friendship. So now, does anybody have something they'd like to bring up? I'm happy to see Lilavati, Venugita, Ananda Swarupini, John Dwyer. I'm not sure who that is, but very happy to know that you're here. Oh, and Rupanuga. And I know that you have some inspiration. We would love for you to share that. Other points? Yes, Pandita.
Well, it's funny because as you're reading this most gorgeous, gorgeous composition, actually, I wanted to ask you about preaching, your experience reaching people and connecting, because you're so much experience with that, and it was it was funny because as you were reading, you were explaining so beautifully that really it's actually the deep sincerity and prayer of the Vaishnava that will is the power behind connecting.
Yes,
And it's not just something that we can formulate.
yeah,
Okay, so we reach people with
yeah.
this tactic or something. But I would love to, I bet we would all love to hear from you, your experience in really reaching people that are not practitioners, and how to connect with them.
Well, I myself don't have any capacity. I'm not just saying that. It's not just something that devotees say, but I've never had a very good memory, and whenever I've been trying to preach to someone, I'm always shocked to see that words come out of my mouth that they smile at. What to speak of hearing that they are more interested and want to go, to the temple or to get a book or to get a closer connection. So it's a fact that we want to strategize, that our capacity to have any intelligence, including things like strategize, make a plan, like in London, there's so much good prasadam distribution, and in that people are going to get a connection, many places all over the world. And when we learn that our very intelligence is also owned by Krishna, then we can come to trust it with our prayer that, like they say, man proposes and God disposes. So if we think that there's some good idea, and our heart is involved as well, right? If we see a person, even we don't know them at all, but we see in their face is downcast, we don't want that to go on. And we hear good people being very distressed about things that are going on in the world and they can't change. And it's so hard not to feel compassionate on them, especially knowing what kind of compassion we can tap into. So yes, we'll try to do that. And we also know of the extreme power of the purity of chanting the holy name. So we always want to go on Harinam. It will enliven us and it will make everyone happy. And so this is something that we just want to wake up in the morning and remember and then proceed. And how can I plan this? We know very well that it's the only thing that can save the problems of this world immediately. And like Srila Prabhupada was explaining, he knew that they would be becoming gladdened. So that much we know. People are happy, we see they're smiling. And like they say in Italy, they on the sign, they quote from Brahma Samhita, every step is a dance. Every word is a song. How attractive is that? Doesn't that make somebody curious? And so that's also a country where I've been told is becoming more and more atheistic. And especially they don't want to hear something about a God who wants you to bow down or pledge allegiance to an authority that you frankly you don't have a convinced kind of faith in. And that's very prominent there. And so they just think of other ways. They act like their friends and family. We're interested in you. We want to give you this wonderful food. We want to know you better. They have a group they call people reaching. And they want for in whatever way we can, maybe somebody will be interested. They've heard of India. They've heard of yoga. And so something will bring people. But if we have this desire, then it's the happiest that we can be. If we because it means we understand something about the compassion, the mercy that has been given to us. Don't know why, don't need to know why. We hear why, but we don't need to fully understand that. But that also means that we can simply do that same kind of thing. For me, it was a magazine that had traveled and been given to a person in Boston. So that was shortly after Srila Prabhupada had landed there, and there was publication was going on there, and just happened to be given to somebody who later told me he didn't want it. He hadn't looked at it, but for some reason he never threw it away. Came to my brother's house about at least 1,000 miles south of there, plopped it on a table where it came to my hand. So yes, distribute literatures, the little booklets and things that we can. They are time bombs.
That's amazing, Didi. What year was that?
That was 1971, June.
Wow.
And there were insurmountable problems. That's the slightly spiritual quest that I had. I wasn't very philosophical, religious, but there were two terrible things going on in the country, in the United States at that time, that made it seem like the country might go to civil war. And both of them broke my heart that I couldn't do anything about them, especially civil rights. So people I had grown up loving as I was 20, as I was becoming an adult and finding out that people that I loved and had been taught by my parents and grandparents to love and to not see anything about a difference, because spiritually we're all the same. And it was my experience of what love was and humility. And but then to become an be on the verge of becoming an adult and finding out that they were treated horribly, and there was nothing that I knew that I could do about it. That was my quest, and that's when, just thinking like that, that's when this poem came to me. So Krishna is always there. By the grace of Krishna, one gets Guru. By the grace of Guru, one gets Krishna. So there's never a time when a sincere soul can't be helped. We just try to make it a little bit easier for them by our practices of going out and chanting and preaching or distributing prasadam or distributing literature, whatever we can. Designing a booth at a fair. Maybe they'll come by and we can see if they're interested. Or we can do things that are behind the scenes. I see Nazar is here too. And he has such a beautiful capacity to make it easy to read our books, our kirtans, and hear our kirtans, and try to get some understanding of what it is we're giving. So the people who are behind the scenes also, whether they ever directly give a book to somebody, it's still essential. And some people we know publish books too, or translate them into all sorts of languages. Does anybody else have a point they'd like to make? Oh, there's
Well,
another. Yes?
well, it was just a little line to add on to what you were saying about how Krishna is the proprietor of everything, and I always remember, after first meeting the devotees and reading the scriptures and listening for a little while, well, okay, gradually over time, um, it's also much of a relief to realize that all the troubles and the problems that we carry in our shoulders and our, people generally in the world, they're like, weighed down by a lot of troubles, isn't it? Because they feel that, well, they just don't know how it all works, basically, the karma and, all the things. So that's also a relief as well, that it's actually Krishna's got it all under control. It might look, you know, fair and all those things, but actually it's a whole perfect system running, and I think I remember finding that a relief, that there, wouldn't be the end of the world, next year type of thing, just to know the whole plan of everything. I think that was, how he's got the whole show covered basically, isn't he? He
Yeah,
set it all in motion and
yeah,
okay, yeah, he's in the spiritual world, just hopefully having not, just having his pastimes and play, but what he's set in motion is like perfect and good and true and
yes,
perfect, yeah. And that's type of relief, especially after other, hearing other religious viewpoints, a little bit heavier, that we hear through life, isn't it? It's a bit like so yeah, I remember that was do realize that daily actually, that and try to remember that as well, that he's got the whole thing running
yeah.
more smoothly than we can even actually, comprehend, isn't it really?
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah. Mhm.
And we don't even, it's so wonderful and so assuring, we don't even need to understand it.
Yeah.
We gradually grow in our understanding, but from the beginning, like we just heard in Sri Upanishad, he is very far away, but he is very near as well. That's not just for me and my troubles, that is for all of the universes. There is no place you can go when that's not true.
Yeah.
I thought of one other point um, that supports this idea that since he's the proprietor, since once we start to get over that shock that that's the proprietor doesn't include me, and I want to simply be his servitor and use everything in his service, then he can engage me as he likes in all sorts of ways. Then there's this real sweet quote from Loving Search for the Lost Servant, the chapter called The Environment, where Guru Maharaj says, the soul is an eternal slave of Krishna, Krishna Nitya Das. Mahaprabhu said, Kivera Swarupaya Krishnara Nitya Das. Slavery to Krishna is the innate nature of the Jiva soul. In order to realize the absolute, we must come to the standard of slavery. It will take nothing less than that. We must submit ourselves as slaves to the play of his sweet will. And if we hear something like this, before we understand how extremely sweet he is, we're averse to the term slave. This sounds awful. A wonderful author, Victor Hugo, wrote an enormous book. The name of it, Les Miserables, means miserable. And somebody was unjustly put in prison for something he had to do because the government's not arranging for people to even have enough food to eat, even his sister and her infant. And he has to stay for 20 years in this horrible prison. And then he gets out, but he's followed for years and years and years, trying to put him back into this prison. That's a slave. So no wonder, and all of these conceptions, we've been in so many different, even human bodies, different cultures, many of them quite hellish. So no wonder we only want to think about getting in control, regaining some control so that I can save myself from such. And we come to ridiculous conclusions about how I'm going to surely do that. But there's also another quote here that convinces me that our happiest solution is to surrender to him completely. And again, in Revealed Truth, chapter 12, Srila Guru Maharaj refers to Sri Sri Prabhupada Jivanamrita 135, being governed by the faith that all success is achieved by serving the Supreme Lord, to abandon servitude to even scriptural injunctions, and take exclusive refuge in the lotus feet of Sri Krishna in every time, place, and circumstance, is known as Sharanagati, unconditional surrender. So what an enormous leap this is from that very miserable, doubtful person who has concluded that the last thing in the world I would want to do would be to surrender to an authority. But Srila Gurudev is explaining about that particular verse. He says, here Srila Guru Maharaj expresses that Sharanagati means faith, that Bhagavad Bhakti Sarvam, through devotion to Bhagavan, you'll get everything. Bhagavan means the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, the Akila Rasamrita Murti, the emporium of all rasa, who possesses all worshipable qualities. Very attractive. Everything you want and need, rasa, ecstasy, joy, nourishment, and so on, will automatically come to you through his service. Your life will be glorious, successful, and perfect through devotion to Lord Krishna. Not only will you receive everything you need internally, but full facility to serve Krishna will also come to you. There's that, the immediate thing is that we becoming gladdened, but also we'll be in that position where we can attain our desired eternal state of servant of Krishna. Then he quotes, then he states, when a jiva soul comes to the strong position of taking exclusive, unconditional shelter at the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna's lotus feet, with full chastity and sincerity, then he becomes a pure Sharanagata. This is Srila Guru Maharaj's explanation. Krishna pada kasrayatvam. When a jiva soul accepts Krishna's lotus feet as his one and only shelter, having faith that everything will be successful and fulfilled by his grace, and abandons the shelter of Vedic religion, demigods, selfish activity, and so on, then he becomes firmly, purely surrendered. We must fully surrender to Lord Krishna and believe it. With that, we will get super benefit in our lives. So it just makes me think, how fortunate are we? What kind of servitors should we be to our masters? Is there anything lacking? We can't find anything lacking at all. They're all telling us the very same thing, which is connecting us with that reality, which is the source of all happiness and unimaginable beauty. And like Lavanya Moyi was pointing out, we love to hear that things are lined up well. We don't have to worry about a terrible state of things. The more we understand about Krishna.
And Didi, it's so lovely how you're saying also we don't actually have to understand necessarily what exactly is going on. But I have to say that I have found that to be a little bit difficult sometimes where we're trying to adjust, well,
Yeah.
mostly,
Yes.
that we're trying to adjust to the Lord's will. But
Yeah.
then I'm finding myself one trying to understand what it is that that he wants and not always know, obviously not knowing that. So, that sort of acceptance that actually I don't know, and it's
Yeah.
okay, and actually just um embracing what has come and accepting it as it is. But it's a
Yeah.
little, yeah, it's not
And
not so easy.
that's a perfect prayer, because that understanding comes from our heart. So Krishna, like, how did we get the understanding that we should accept our guru? I can't explain so much about it, but I keep trying my entire life. I keep trying to explain because that understanding is always growing. And we don't have to understand with this. This is next door to the soul. And if we're, as we become, the soul becomes awakened, the intelligence is becoming emboldened to control the mind. And then the mind tells the senses what to do. Here's a very nice thing that you can cook. And why are you attracted to that? Because you think that the devotees will like that. It's very different than, when the soul is sleeping or pretty much sleeping, then the mind is just listening to the senses, and the senses are saying, grab that sense object. And that just makes us go down and become so entangled, and the karma is that much harder to get out of, and we make all the wrong decisions. So really all we need is to awaken, Jeep Jago. And then everything else is going to be controlled, and our understanding will grow. You reminded me of I'll tell one little funny story. A devotee that I used to just love and adore. We were close friends way back when my son was a baby. And she was also a pujari in the Los Angeles temple. And Los Angeles has a good many earthquakes, and some of them are little, and some of them get to be pretty big, and you just have to live with that. And one time when she was a Pujarian, it was her duty to also dress their lordships. And she was literally having her hands on Krishna, removing one shirt. And it was a strong earthquake. And she chastised herself later as she was telling it to me. She was laughing, saying, when that happened, she looked all around, help, help. And later it occurred to her, why I'm standing here with Krishna. Why am I looking somewhere else for help? So one of the final things I was reading just now from Srila Gurudev is bringing up about taking shelter. So that surrender is so many things. It's acknowledging who is the only proprietor and trying to be his servant. So many things like that, our sadhana. But also it's the surrendered soul is taking complete shelter. Who will I take shelter of? He's so near to us. He's giving us his shelter, and that's exactly what we need, which is an awful lot more than being saved from an earthquake. But the more we take that shelter, the more it will fall into place. That's the only thing we could ever do.
So lovely.
Okay, so does somebody want to wrap up? Say something? I think I saw some more people. Tungurasa, Malati Priya in Brazil. Brazil is well represented today. Felipe Bendo. And I saw, oh yes, it is, Anutama. Yay. I hope you're still in Italy. I will be going there. We'll be together somehow. Oh, and there's Dana. Good to see you, Dana. And you're coming to Italy, right?
Hare Krishna.
Hare
I'm so
Krishna.
happy to see you today. Thank you so much for doing this, and just love hearing all of your inspiration and your your encouragement and your enthusiasm. It really helps to really keep, you know, especially like when you don't have like devotees near you, and that it's so welcoming, and I'm so grateful to have the sangha, and I just always I get so, enlivened when I hear you speak. So thank you, and I'm so grateful to be with all of you here today. So thank you.
Well, it's very kind of you to say, but honestly, I'm completely enlivened by all of you. This is, it's not just a really nice place to be, not just a really nice group of friends. It's essential. It completely lifts us above so easily we can fall back into the terrible nightmare, which
Yes,
is
yes.
forgetfulness of Krishna. So easily we can fall back. But all we need to do is wake up.
Mm-hmm.
And
Thank
then
you
we
for
see
saying that.
devotees like this. Yeah, yeah, it's
So
so true.
true.
And as soon as we're even
Yes.
a little bit awake, we see
Mm-hmm.
the sun is
Mm-hmm.
rising. Okay, well, I know that everyone here joins me in hoping and praying that somehow or other we'll get to hear from Srila Madhusudana Maharaj very soon, our great inspirer, our very clear, beautiful intelligence that he has, connecting us always straight. Okay, so in the meantime, my dhanavat to everyone. Be well.
Thank you
Have
so much.
one. Okay.
Donuts.
Dhanavat, dhanavat.
Underbat.
Dandava Didi.
Jai Srimati Kumkum Devi Dasi ki jai.
Jai.